Hello and welcome to our webinar, Design from Anywhere with Plant and BIM 360. This webinar is brought to you by Applied Software. My name is Caitlin Dunn and I'm pleased to be your moderator today. We encourage you to take advantage of our fully customizable webinar console by clicking on the icons at the bottom of your screen. You can resize any of these widgets during the presentation. Be sure to check out our free webinar library and to register for upcoming webinars. This has been pre-recorded for your convenience. You'll be receiving an email with the recording link for future reference. Submit your questions and we'll get back to you via email as soon as we can. Find Applied Software on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram to make meaningful connections, receive special offers, and stay up to date on the newest innovations. And be sure to visit our website, ASTI.com, to see how to achieve your design and business objectives through our innovative solutions, training options, and services. You can also find a complete schedule of upcoming events, webinars, and training on our calendar at ASTI.com/calendar. As a reminder, this webinar is pre-recorded. During this webinar, there's a poll question that asks, what are common issues when using collaboration tools? We'd love to know your answers to that question as well. Feel free to comment any additional information you might have in the Q&A box. I'll be putting that poll question up on the screen shortly. I'm pleased to introduce Caleb Flowers. Caleb is a plant implementation specialist at Applied Software. He has a demonstrated history of working in the oil and gas industry. He's skilled in plant 3D, laser scanning, and piping design. Here we go with that poll question, and you can answer that anytime during the webinar. All right, and here we go.
Awesome, thank you. How's it going, guys? I'm Caleb Flowers. I'm based out of Houston, Texas, and I've been with Applied for just about, about a year and 4 months or something like that. So, and I am a plant implementation specialist. So basically what I do is Plant 3D, BIM 360 design, and Plant 3D. I usually do implementation for that. And I'm also on the support team for Recap and Navisworks when it pertains to Plant 3D. So anything Plant 3D, I'm on the team there. And then I have about 8 years experience in piping design in oil and gas, midstream and downstream. So a little bit of logistics and things like that, and then downstream, so refineries and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of my background. So we can go ahead and get started on my slides. So we're going to be talking about collaborating with Plant 3D and BIM 360 today. So what is collaboration with Plant 3D and BIM 360? So simply put, it's the option to create and use Plant 3D projects in a cloud-based solution that all users can access via web browser anywhere in the world. So Plant 3D is a project-based program. So you can't just place them in any cloud-based solution, unfortunately. You kind of have to have something that's specifically built for Plant 3D. So BIM 360, as of 2021, BIM 360 Design now works with Plant 3D 2021. So now we have a solution so we can actually manage our documents and we can manage projects within Plant 3D. So it's pretty awesome. So like you said, it's a cloud-based collaboration. BIM 360, it enables us to collaborate with team members outside of our company firewall. So before, we usually had to have a SQL server or something like that set up locally so everybody could work on a project. Well, now we don't have to have that anymore. We can be at home, we can be in separate offices in different parts of the country, and we can do things like that. And it makes it just a little easier for us to collaborate. So like you said, you don't have to be there anymore. Also, this can help with things like contractors and people in the field. So if you have somebody on site, let's say your office is based in Houston, and you have somebody on site in, say, El Paso or something like that in like West Texas, kind of far from the office. So they can actually connect through BIM 360, and they don't have to worry about having their like a local area network set up or anything like that. They can just get onto the network online. So it makes it much easier, much more wireless, if you will. So. And then security. So this is one of the biggest things that, one of the biggest concerns this day and age is security. So what are we doing to keep this secure, right? We don't want it just in some random cloud-based server so anybody can just type in the URL and see all of our maybe proprietary information or anything like that. Well, the way that BIM 360 fights this is they have permissions. So you can go through and you can set permissions for your P90 draftsmen, your designers, project managers, anything like that, anybody that would contribute to the project. The project admins can control who has access to that. And the same with outside contractors. So they can, if you have an outside contractor that you have working on a certain job, and you don't necessarily want them to have access to your entire local network, you can just give them access to this one project, and that's really all they would need, right? So to add to that, the users must be invited by the project admin in order to have access to the project. So like we said before, you can't just type in the URL and just jump onto the project. And even with a link, if a project admin sends you the link to the project, if he hasn't invited you to the project, you still won't be able to view it yet. You don't have the permission, essentially. So it's quite a secure platform. So Navisworks, that's one of the biggest tools that we have with Plant 3D. So previously with collaboration, so Navisworks is going to work with things like advanced steel. It's going to work with recap models. We're going to work with Revit models. A lot of people use Navisworks to kind of bring the whole design together, right? Well, Navisworks and Plant 3D, Navisworks and BIM 360 rather, they play a little different than Navisworks and Plant 3D. So previously with Navisworks, you could just bring in all your drawing files, right? Well, your drawing files are now on a web server. They're on a cloud-based server, so you can't really just throw them on there. Navisworks, BIM 360 has a little bit of an issue with Xrefs. For some reason, we found workarounds, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But they don't do well with multiple references and with relative references. You have to really go with an absolute reference, or you just got to be careful. And with Navisworks, that's no exception. So really, it only works with your single NWF file. So we can kind of go into that here next. So typically, what we'll do, actually, to backtrack just a little bit, your desktop connector was something we used to use as a tool to get your Navisworks and Plant 3D models to connect. But unfortunately, right now they're not working very well together. Like I said, our workaround is we create an NWF. Okay, so then we take that NWF and we add it to our related files. So our related files within our Plant 3D project, basically on BIM 360, everything has to be within the project, right? So, and typically your Navisworks files are not within the project. They're usually kept in another folder location. So what we'll do is we'll take the NWF and we'll place them within our related files, and then we'll use the copy file to project command. And what this will do is this will add it to the project now, right? So then we can check it in and check it out. Okay, so what we do after that is we would take our local files, and instead of checking them out, we would just download them all locally. Typically, whenever we do our setup, we'll have a local file, local network location. So this is usually on your computer on a C drive or something like that. And what it does is you can keep all your local copies of the files there in case there's something you need to work on, maybe if you don't have internet access or something like that. And then what you can do is you can add all those files to the NWF after you checked it out. So all your local files to your NWF. And if you just keep updating those local files, those will update on your NWF, and therefore you will have an up-to-date Navisworks model. So It's a little more complicated than just your standard refresh or standard append, but it's definitely workable. So, and another thing, we offer a BIM 360 up and ready specifically catered to plant. So in this we set up, basically you're going to set up your project. We're going to set up your first project within Plant 3D, or within Plant 3D and BIM 360, and we'll kind of go through and show you how to manage all these things, how to manage your files, how to check in and check out, how to migrate your projects to BIM 360, and how to set permissions and things like that. So we kind of go through and we mentor you through not only the basics of everything, setting everything up, but we also do a mentor program with it. So we offer any like customization or anything like that you may need obviously within a constrained amount of time, but we offer kind of a basic setup customization for you. So let's see. Okay, so I think Alyssa, you did this one before I jumped on.
I did, so we can just skip.
Perfect. So the reasoning behind that was our common issues. So I'm going to go through a few common issues. I have basically 4 common issues that we see typically after doing our up and ready. We see these and they come back as usually cases, but we're going to show you kind of our walkthrough on how to fix those few issues. And like I said, in our mentoring program, we will actually go through and fix issues for you like this. So that's what these are typically from previous mentoring programs. So, but like I said, we want to hear from you, and we want to know what issues that you're having. So the first one is the shared content folder. So like we talked about before, BIM 360 is, whenever it pulls in your plant project, it only pulls in your project files, right? Well, tool palettes, your templates, your pipe specs usually aren't in the project. They're usually in a different location on your network. So you have to have a way to share these with your entire team, right? So what we've came up with is we use Microsoft Sync Toy, and we sync your shared content folder on a OneDrive folder. And so this OneDrive folder, just a Microsoft OneDrive folder, everybody on the team will have access to it, right? So basically this puts not only your projects in the cloud with BIM 360, but it also puts your shared content in the cloud with using Sync Toy and OneDrive. And like I said, this also works with pipe specs, your templates, your tool palettes, and other things like that. So go on to the next one, circular Xrefs. So we had a particular customer that we could not figure out what was going wrong with his uploading his projects. So he would start uploading his projects, and he would get about 95% of the way through, and it would just stop, and we could not for the life of us figure it out. So we finally dug in. We found out that there were circular Xrefs. So if you don't know what a circular Xref is, it's essentially a drawing that contains a sequence of nested references that refer back to itself. So it just keeps going in a circle, right? So what it would do is it would try to load these drawings and load these references into the project, and it would just get caught in an infinity loop. It would just keep going and going and going. And the way we resolved this was we just went through and we made sure that there weren't any Xrefs in any of the drawings. So basically just cleaned everything up. And whenever we moved the project to BIM 360, migrated it ran perfect. So that ended up being what the issue was. So like I said, whenever you get the project into BIM 360, you can go back and you can add those references, and they will stay. It's just for some reason the circular Xref just did not work. So. And then another common issue was the cache clearing. So we've noticed with some people that they will get an issue. It's usually like a failure to sync issue or something like that says, hey, this is not the latest drawing in the project, and it just doesn't want to load the latest drawing for some reason. So typically what we'll do is we call it resetting the local machine. So like we talked about before, our local workspace that we have created, our local file location, we'll go through and we'll basically delete all the files that are in this location. So the project is still going to be in BIM 360, but it will no longer be on your machine. And then we go through and we're going to purge our local data cache, just like we typically do. It's just normal housekeeping with Plant 3D. And then we'll come back and we'll add the project to Plant 3D again. So just like we opened the project for the first time in Plant 3D from BIM 360, we'll just do that one more time, and that will bring everything back. So you'll have to go through and save it and download it again if you're running your Navisworks or something like that, but that will go ahead and fix any sync issues or anything like that that it may be having. And then our last one here, we have permissions. So we have had a ton of questions for this. A lot of people use outside contractors. So typically, if you're going to use an outside contractor, they will need their own license of BIM 360 design. So whether that can be provided by their contractor company, or if it's provided by your company, the company that they're working for, this can be done via, usually we'll go through and we'll help you set that up, but it has to be done via outside in their network or within your network, your account rather. So then after that, they can be added to the project. So anyone with a BIM 360 design can be added to your project. It's just usually it's a question of who does the licensing. So it's who does the handles the Autodesk account in that situation. And that is all of my.
All right, so I believe the recording cuts off right there because of the pre-recording. But yeah, that was a really quick webinar. Hope you learned a lot from that. But thank you so much for joining us today. Again, if you have any questions, please email us and we will get back to you. So thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you spending your time with us, and we trust that it was meaningful and impactful for you and your business. We look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Thank you.